So hello and welcome everybody to a little quick interview with Lynn Bell, who is one of the faculty and track leaders at the conference for the Organisation of Professional Astrologers, the Great Awakening. That's the conference will be April the 22nd to the 27th. It's a virtual conference this year because of COVID, which makes it accessible for everybody globally. So we're going to find out a little bit about Lynn and the conference and the track that she'll be leading. So Lynn, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been an astrologer for a very long time, and I live in France, and I used to go regularly to the UK and teach for the Center for Psychological Astrology, which is the school that Liz Green and Howard Siswortis created. I started teaching there in 1995, and it was a great place to teach. And before that, I taught in French, so I have several astrological consciousnesses, I suppose. But one of the things I've always been interested in is families, and in part because of my client work, people would bring me family members, and I'm sure this happens to many astrologers. But I started to notice how things worked between family members, and more than that, and I think this is something other French astrologers have been interested in. I got very interested in what we call psychogenealogy, which is psychogenealogy. And
Mm.
it's the whole idea that there's a psyche that belongs to the family, and that each family member is kind of part of something larger than themselves. And
Mm.
when you use astrology to look at this, or to illuminate it, let's say, it's a really incredible tool with the most amazing insight.
Fantastic.
Oh dear.
Oh, and that's what your track's actually called, isn't it? Family Patterns in Astrological Practice. So, and
Right.
this is a
Yes.
more intermediate to advanced track, so it will need, some astrological knowledge for sure. This is not for beginners. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely not for beginners because we won't be explaining what the moon in this house means. I mean, it doesn't, we'll be going back to, we'll run through basics, but it, just this weekend, I had a family, a couple of members of a family come and work with me. I'd already seen family members individually, and they wanted to look at the larger pattern, but I didn't really know why they were coming. But
Mm.
I prepared about 5 charts, let's say, not a huge. And we started to dialogue, and I could start to move. They weren't astrologically fluid, but I could start to move in between the stories of different members and move really quickly in and out of experience
Mm.
and see things not just from one position, but from multiple positions. And that's what I love about this work.
Fascinating. Maybe I'll switch tracks.
Well, you know, what's so exciting about the OPA conference is that the tracks are limited to 14 people.
Yeah.
And so you're able to go into depth with your own charts. And it's really great for the tutor, for someone like me, because I'm actually getting to know people and getting to see what their questions are and work with how uh, what they're dealing with in their own family patterns, but also with their client work.
And the tracks are what makes this conference unique, right? Because most conferences are, generally speakers, and this conference does have speakers also. I'm one. And but the tracks, I've attended one OPA conference, the last one in Zion, and I must say the tracks are so deep that you learn so much more and expand your astrological knowledge.
Mm.
So if anybody's interested in family patterns, sign up for, in
Yeah,
fact, join the conference early and make sure you get your spot in the track of your
yeah.
choice. Yeah.
And yeah, and I've written a book about this called Family Patterns, Planetary Threads.
Okay.
Threads as in THREADS. It's Ibis Press.
Yeah.
But I always bring in my own work when I am always bringing examples that I haven't necessarily written about that I can really use to highlight this stuff. But of course, it's exciting that people will bring what they have with them.
Mm. And I notice you say you'll bring the family's charts even if you don't know the time, but how many charts will you be able to cover in this?
I don't know, actually. It's really important that it's mm, the participants looking for patterns and
Mm.
not just the astrologer doing that. It's a hands-on group.
Yeah.
And there may be people who've already looked at a lot of work and have questions about something they've seen, saying, everyone in my family has Mars square Saturn. What does that mean? How do we, what should I do with that? Um, because then there are problems of, well, how do you work with these things? How do you heal what's obviously a difficult pattern or a difficult inheritance? Um, what are antidotes? Who are the members? What's your role in the middle of all this, for example? Uh, so there's so many questions and so many ways to look at it that it's really fantastic
Awesome. Well, we're going to call that a day because these
work.
are just short videos to tell you a little bit more about the tracks and about the conference. But if you want a spot in Lynn's amazing track, I can recommend signing up before December the 21st because that's the early bird price. You know, the best tracks kind of go really fast. So if you want to make sure you've got a spot, go and sign up, register now at the link that will be posted with this. So thanks,
Thank
Lynn.
you, Louise. And what are you speaking about at the conference?
I'm actually speaking about changing the logos in the Astro. It's based on my book, The Complete Guide to Astrology, about dropping the kind of polarities for the Aquarian age and changing the language we use in astrology because language shapes our perceptions. So,
Oh, great.
yeah.
Great. I'll
Excited.
look forward
So,
to hearing more. All right.
thanks, Lynn.